Hello everyone, my name is Falck. I'm the health analyst here in Arctic Securities. Today we are here with the CEO of BerGenBio, Richard Godfrey. Can we just start with this, Richard? Can you tell us a little bit about the history behind BerGenBio?
Sure, thank you. Nice to be here. Thank you for the invitation. So, over 10 years ago now, we spun BerGenBio out of the University of Bergen based on pioneering research by Professor Jim Lorenz. Jim was asking the questions, why is it that cancer invariably comes back after treatment, and when it comes back, it's resistant to drugs, invisible to the immune system, and spreads around the body. That's the aggressive cancer, and on the back of that we discovered a protein called AXL, and we've subsequently understand the role and function of AXL and have developed drugs that inhibit it.
And now it's a really well-known drug target, and I know that you are first in class, so I hope you still will be that. You just this morning you had a Q1 presentation. Can you just try to tell us the real highlights of that presentation?
I think there were probably 3 highlights from Q1. First of all, it gives me great pleasure to continue to report positive clinical data. Having first discovered AXL and then taken AXL inhibitors into the clinic, 2018 was a cornerstone for BerGenBio, releasing proof of concept data, and right the way through to this year, this quarter, we've continued to report compelling proof of concept data. In this quarter, we reported data on the efficacy of bemcentinib, our lead drug, in combination with chemo in patients with acute myeloid leukemia. The second key message from our Q1 presentation is that we continue to expand our clinical development program. We've extended and expanded the collaboration with Merck. This is in combination with their blockbuster drug Keytruda in non-small cell lung cancer, and we've started the clinical trials with our anti-AXL antibody program. Other trials have also begun with investigator-sponsored studies, and we've strengthened our management team and our board. So we really are continuing the momentum to position the company for late-stage development.
Absolutely. One thing that you have is that you have a biomarker, and that's really important now in oncology, meaning that you can have precision therapy.
Indeed.
Can you just explain a little bit about, for those people that don't know it, what is a companion diagnostic and what's the advantage of having a companion diagnostic?
Okay. Well, it really stems from the basic research. If you understand what's driving the disease to be aggressive, and in our mind it's the expression of AXL on the cancer cells. If you understand and buy into that thesis, you then develop a drug that's highly selective for AXL, that only will inhibit AXL. Therefore, you only really want to be targeting patients who have AXL in their tumour. It makes no sense to treat every patient when you know that only half of the patients are going to have AXL in their tumour. So it basically starts from science and starts from understanding the drivers of the disease. And then as we go forward, it just becomes very, very good economics. You don't necessarily want to be giving a drug to patients who won't benefit. You certainly do not want to be reimbursing drugs where you know that it won't work. So the diagnostic is critical so that you can find the right patients for your drug at the right time, and they're the only ones that benefit from it. The biomarker is the starting point. It's the chemical that you can identify. On the basis of that, you then need to develop a diagnostic assay, a tool or a test so that you can measure it, and then you need to validate it and show clinical proof of concept, and then ultimately clinical proof, and then get registration. So it's a whole journey developing a companion product. This time it's a medical device at the same time as developing the drug.
You have a lot of interesting studies going on, and you have a lot of readouts. And now in 3 weeks, it's the ASCO Congress, the biggest oncology congress in Chicago. Can you tell us a little bit about the data that you're going to present, and perhaps the clinical impact of those data?
Yes, of course. So, indeed, last year we demonstrated proof of concept in many different cancers in many different therapeutic settings. And the outcome of that was the ability to refine our strategy. Our strategy is to focus on administering bemcentinib to leukemia patients as a monotherapy, and also in combination with checkpoint inhibitors in lung cancer patients. So that's our declared strategy going forward. That's where our efforts and focus are going forward. And at the ASCO Congress, we'll be presenting 2 sets of data, one in leukemia and one in lung cancer. The clinical impact of the data that we're presenting will really be the confirming the potential that by inhibiting AXL you can make other drugs work a lot better, and you can make the benefits of those drugs be prolonged. So in the case of leukemia, you'll see that we have a rapid onset of benefit and a long duration of response in patients who otherwise wouldn't benefit so much from the chemo. And similarly in the case of the checkpoint inhibitors in lung cancer, much the same as we reported last year, we can see that we make the checkpoint inhibitors work better for longer and more patients than otherwise would benefit from them. So this is really practice-changing data in large patient populations, although it's still relatively small and needs to be scaled into late-stage development.
Thank you. Another thing is that you have a really impressive amount of investigators from universities around the world that wants to test your drug, because obviously they think there's something interesting about this drug. Can you tell us a little bit on how this all fits in your development strategy and the communication strategy, perhaps?
Sure, absolutely. I guess the first thing is to go back to the research questions that Jim and our scientists were asking. Why is it that cancer invariably acquires resistance and evades the immune system and becomes very aggressive? And increasingly the world is acknowledging the fact that AXL is very, very important in mediating those aggressive properties. And by inhibiting AXL, you can block that, you can prevent that. There's only so much that we can do ourselves as a biotech company. And I think having demonstrated proof of concept and correlated with biomarkers and other translational readouts, we now are on the map. This is important. In order to commercialize this realistically, we need this framework. We can operate at one end of the spectrum and at the other end of the spectrum, but there's a whole matrix of other diseases and other indications and other combinations. So our strategy is to support highly respected thought leaders and key opinion leaders who have a clinical trial that they'd like to follow, combining bemcentinib with other drugs or indeed in monotherapy, and where they come forward with a robust hypothesis, a clinical research institution that is credible, and the trial that can be executed in a safe and efficient fashion will then support that with provision of drugs, and we also offer some support for translational research as well. In terms of our messaging, it really means that there will be a constant stream of news flow from different trials carried out by different investigators in different settings for many years to come, in the background of the work that we're doing ourselves.
Thank you. And finally, I just want to wish you really good luck in the future. I know that you have a really interesting readouts all the year long. And thank you for your time and the interview.
Thank you very much.